Hello, I have a question for you. Did you ever meet a person and you think in the first hours it was a good person, but in the end it was one another snake on your life road? Today I teach you reading the body language, and with the body language we know what the person next to us thinking. Take pen and a notebook. We starting. Our body speaks, always. Even when we are silent, our body language continues to speak. This includes gestures and facial expressions, posture, voice, and clothing. All of them together reveal a lot to the other person about what we feel or think. Body language is very important in communication, more than the spoken word. This applies to the job interview as well as to negotiations or our relationships in everyday life. In this video, we explain how you can interpret and decipher body language. Body language is part of nonverbal communication and includes all movements of gestures, hands, feet, shoulders, and facial expression, as well as overall posture. The interaction of gestures, facial expressions, and body language can make up to 93% of all communication and is very important when exchanging messages and feelings. If the nonverbal signals in our body language match our statements, credibility, authenticity, and trust arise. A lot of body language happens unconsciously, but you can also train your body language consciously. Correctly reading and interpreting body language is a form of social competence and empathy. This creates advantages in communication because you can better adapt to your counterpart and direct the conversation, privately and professionally. 7 channels of body language. When we talk to other people, we use several channels for communication, usually unconsciously. See 4-ear model. The spoken word plays only the smallest role. The channels of body language are eye contact, facial expressions, eyes, forehead, mouth, gestures, hands, shoulders, feet, posture, touch, hug, handshake, habitus, appearance, status symbols, distance to the conversation partner, voice, volume, pitch, tempo, emphasis. We will go into each of these 7 body language signals and their meaning in more detail in this guide. Language is deceptive. Body language is honest. You cannot not communicate. Even if we are silent, the body does not remain silent. We can't just turn off our body language. Our gestures, facial expressions, and clothes always say something. Sometimes they reveal more than we would like. Our body language cannot lie, says renowned mime artist Sami Molcho. When we communicate with other people, body language conveys a lot of additional information. It can support verbal communication and at the same time convey whether we find the other person likable and trust the person. Our body language and behavior form the proverbial first impression within seconds, for which there is no second chance. The spoken word becomes almost a minor matter. Number 1. Eye contact in body language. Eyes say more than 1,000 words. They are the windows to the soul. As soon as 2 people meet, they look into each other's eyes. For several reasons. Eye contact signals interest, sympathy, or acceptance. We can tell in an instant whether we can trust or believe the person we are talking to. According to studies conducted by Alan Johnston from University College London, the optimal duration of the moment should be no longer than 3.3 seconds at a time. Prolonged eye contact tends to be viewed as a threatening or aggressive gesture of dominance and loses sympathy. In Japan and China, prolonged eye contact is even seen as a sign of lack of respect. What deep looks mean? Blinking, boredom, disinterest, eye blinking, sympathy, submissiveness, seek eye contact, affection, attention, avoidance, shyness, antipathy, frequently looking away, annoyance, boredom, aversion, lowered gaze, guilt, shame, embarrassment, stare, mental strength, charisma, dominance, fixation, examination, intimidation, gesture of power. Number 2. Facial expressions in body language. Facial expressions include different movements of the facial muscles, eyes, mouth, lips, as well as cheeks and forehead. The difference between facial expressions and other facial movements is that facial expressions are always an expression of our emotions. Anyone who is chewing or speaking also moves their facial muscles, but does not show any facial expressions. The psychologist Paul Ekman discovered back in the 1960s that certain emotions and facial expressions are understood in the same way all over the world, We can immediately assign a specific emotion to the facial expressions of these 7 basic emotions. Joy. The forehead is relaxed. Smile lines form. The cheeks are raised. The nostrils are spread. The corners of the mouth go up. Fury. The eyebrows are drawn down. The eyes are squinted. The nostrils are wide apart. The lips are closed with pressure. Fear. The eyebrows go up. The eyes are wide open. The nose is slightly raised. The corners of the mouth are pulled apart. Disgust. The upper lip is pulled up. The lower lip pushes forward. There are visible wrinkles between the wings of the nose and the corners of the mouth. The nose is pulled up. Grief. The upper eyelids and the corners of the mouth hang down. The gaze is fixed. The cheeks slack. Surprise. The eyes are wide open. The cheeks tense. The mouth slightly open. Contempt. The upper eyelids hang down. The gaze is fixed. The cheeks go up slightly. Only one corner of the mouth is raised. Facial expressions examples. Interpreting moments. Correctly interpreting someone else's facial expressions or grimaces is not always easy. Typical characteristics do not necessarily have to be unique. To make it easier for you to interpret facial expressions in body language, here are some examples and their meaning. Eye roll. Disapproval, disinterest. Irony or annoyance. Eyes wide open. Surprise, astonishment. Narrowed eyes, skepticism, uncertainty. Raise eyebrows. Surprise, amazement, skepticism. Eyebrows furrowed, concentration or anger. Tears in the eyes, sadness or emotion. Frown, doubt, thoughtfulness, rejection. Facial expressions examples. Interpreting mouth movements. In addition to the eyes, the mouth plays a particularly important role in body language. The movements of the mouth or the position of the corners of the mouth reveal a lot, and not just when speaking. Examples of how you can interpret the individual mouth movements. 1. Smile. Joy, sympathy, approval. 2. Pulling up your upper lip, discrepancy, contradiction, protest. 3. Lower lip protruded, sniff, disappointment, or skepticism. 4. Pressing lips, rejection, repressed emotion. 5. Pursing lips, thoughtfulness, deliberation, indignation. 6. Lips trembling, fear or sadness, concern, uncertainty, rejection. Moisten lips, embarrassment, discomfort, or affection. Grinding teeth, anger, tension, or stress. Wrinkle your nose, concern, rejection, or disgust. 3. Gestures in body language. The gesture includes all movements of the arms and hands as well as the shoulders and head. It also serves to communicate without words and can support and particularly emphasize verbal messages. At the same time, gestures are dangerous traitors. They can say something completely different than our words. Gestures have another function. They indirectly convey a person's social status and self-image. High status. So-called high-status gestures signal nonverbal self-confidence and power. This includes slow movements, an upright posture, symmetrical gestures, both legs on the floor, hands in front of the body, and a firm, clear voice. Low status. Low social status can also be recognized by body language. The voice is quiet or shaky. The movements are hectic. The posture is hunched or submissive. We do encounter many intermediate stages in everyday life. Nevertheless, people can usually immediately determine their social status from strong or weak gestures. 5 types of gestures. Gestures are part of so-called kinesics, a discipline that studies the influence of our movements on communication. Illustrators. What is meant are gestures that illustrate what is being said. For example, wide-eyed gestures to show that you are frightened or sweeping gestures to show how big your office is. Emblems. Emblems are culturally and socially determined signals. Example, nodding for yes, the extended middle finger as an insult. Emblems are a simplified form of sign language, but they can have different meanings in other cultures. Adapters. Adapters are learned in childhood and used later unconsciously. They help regulate your own emotions. Example, kneading your earlobes or cracking your fingers when you feel inner restless. Regulators. These gestures can control and regulate a conversation. For example, by signaling to the other person that you did not understand something or a stop signal that you would like to finish. Affect gestures. These gestures express spontaneous emotions and cannot be suppressed. They happen emotionally. These are often micro gestures such as an opened mouth, surprise, or furrowed eyebrows, incomprehension. Interpreting gestures, examples, and meaning. Many gestures are used conventionally. Means. They have a general meaning that is understood equally by everyone. For example, shaking hands as a greeting or tapping the index finger on the forehead to give someone a bird. There are both positive and negative gestures. Recognizing them makes it easier for you to interpret the gestures of your counterpart. Negative gestures. Crossed arms, thoughtfulness, distance, or rejection. Hands behind your back, dishonesty or shame. Hands in your pockets, disinterest, boredom, shyness. Clasping your hands behind your head, distance, arrogance. Arms raised forward, defensive posture, protective gesture. Clenched fist, threatening gesture, protest. Expansive gestures, nervousness or dominance gesture. Rest your head on your hands, tiredness, boredom, resignation. Playing with fingers, nervousness, inner restlessness. Drumming with fingers, impatience, restlessness, or provocation. Pointing fingers, accusation, aggression. Raised index finger, instruction, arrogance. Walking around, nervousness, discomfort, restlessness. Neutral gestures. Put your finger on your nose, concentration, thoughtfulness. Scratching your head, helplessness, uncertainty. Rubbing chin, thoughtfulness, contentment. Shrugging shoulders, ignorance, uncertainty. Positive gestures. Nod, agreement, understanding. Hands open and visible, honesty, open-mindedness. Put your hands on your hips, self-confidence, authority. Fold your hands over your head, inner peace, sovereignty. Clap your hands, applause, signal to leave strong handshake, mental strength, self-confidence, dominance. Rubbing hands, complacency or arrogance. Posture table, examples plus meaning. People express how they feel through their posture, self-confident and professional, or afraid, inferior, powerless. This often hides so-called status gestures or power poses. You should definitely include these power poses in your body language repertoire in order to sustainably improve your external appearance. These include stomach in, chest out, muscles tense, shoulders straight, a firm, upright stance, breathing evenly, eye contact sustained and empathetic. Even colloquially, we talk about someone having both feet firmly on the ground or going through life with broad shoulders. Posture meaning. Gestures above the waist, self-confidence. Gestures below the waist, insecurity. Open posture, courage, sovereignty. Closed posture, discomfort. Straight shoulders, open effect, drooping shoulders. Depressed mood, prevent interest, attention, jagged gait. Energy. Number 4. Touches in body language. Touching is also part of body language. Patting on the shoulder, hugging, taking someone by the hand, or just touching. Skin contact is vital for people. Not every touch is perceived as pleasant. Some touching and groping is even intrusive or hurtful. In most cases, however, touch works wonders. Being caressed, hugged, and held has been proven to lower heart rate and stress. Anxiety decreases, we find peace, and even the immune system is strengthened. The reason for this is the release of 2 hormones. Oxytocin strengthens bonds, and serotonin elevates mood. There is no mammal that develops adequately without touch, says psychologist Martin Grunwald from the University of Leipzig. Dog, cat, human, we don't survive the lack of contact. Manipulate touch. An alternative medical discipline has emerged around the magic of touch. Haptonomy, the study of touch. After that, touching is a trust and sympathy booster. When the French psychologist Nicolas Guéguen experimented with flirting in nightclubs, he was able to almost double the success of men by first touching the women on the arm. Afterwards, the women were significantly more willing to dance with a strange man or give him their phone number. Studies at Harvard University show that when HR professionals evaluate applications, heavy application folders literally carry more weight. The recruiters rated the candidates as better and more qualified. Touch is the most underestimated sense, believes Harvard psychologist Christopher Nocera. It is no coincidence that Jesus touched people or laid hands on people when he healed them. In numerous religions, the laying on of hands is part of a blessing, healing ritual that touches people, literally. Number 5. Overall appearance. Our entire appearance is a reflection of our nature and personality. The way we dress for an occasion already expresses how we feel or see ourselves. Clothes make the man, you know the saying. And it's true. Simply adapting to a current dress code expresses belonging to a cultural group or religion. Example, headscarf for women or tie in business. Such signals, status symbols, accessories, tattoos, and so on, can convey rank and power or are intended to make us more attractive, for example when flirting. This also includes our hairstyle, the makeup, or the scent we put on. Let's go to the number 6. Number 6, distance in body language. Every person has individual distance zones. In this country, everything that is less than 60 centimeters away, about an arm's length, is part of the intimate sphere. It is reserved for family and close friends. With strangers, anything over 1.20 meters would be a comfortable range. When greeting strangers, please keep your distance. Anything else would be excessive. At the same time, you can tell from the distance to another person how the person feels about you or a third person. This means that the distance between two people becomes a body language signal that you can interpret. Distance zones. I give you some examples here. There are: intimate zone is up to 60 cm like family, partner, maybe best friends. Also personal zone is 6,120 cm in friendships and acquaintances. Social zone is 120-360 cm, that's like work and people you meet every day. And the last zone is the public zone, 360 cm, strangers and audience. Number 7, voice and body language. The use of the voice is part of paraverbal communication or acoustic perception. When it comes to body language, it's not about what we say, but rather how we say it and what we express with our voice when we speak. For example, the volume, loud or quiet, the intonation, emphasis on individual words or parts of sentences, speech melody, monotonous, modulated or singing, speech rate, slow or fast, and voice pitch, high, low, carrying or trembling. All of these variations and changes in the voice can, depending on the situation, express one's own emotions or influence them on the other person, arouse sympathy or lead to rejection. A speaker whose voice scratches or creaks when speaking also triggers unpleasant feelings in us and the compulsion to clear our throat, so-called psychorespiratory effect. Paraverbal communication is particularly important when it comes to irony or sarcasm. Without the appropriate signals, irony cannot be understood. Dangers of interpreting body language. Interpreting body language correctly is not always easy in everyday life. Even small gestures or movements can have different meanings, and the differences are sometimes only minimal. So if you want to read faces and interpret body language, you should avoid the following mistakes. Men and women. The body language of men and women is sometimes completely different. Men usually appear strong and invulnerable to the outside world, make themselves big, stick out their chests, or act as protectors. Female body language, on the other hand, is less noticeable and more subtle. So-called micro-gestures are all the more important for women. Context. Nonverbal signals always belong in a context. Most people are nervous in a job interview or during an exam. This changes her body language massively. We usually speak very differently at work than we do among friends or family. Depending on the context, it only helps to know the other person better in order to better assess the facial differences between normal behavior and the current situation. Operational blindness. Do you know the halo effect or its counterpart, the horn effect? Both describe a perception error in which a single characteristic of a person has such a dominant effect on us that it creates an overwhelming overall impression. For example, applicants with glasses appear more intelligent to many HR managers, and that's the problem. You always interpret body language through your own glasses, and these can be cloudy. Use body language. Our body language cannot be controlled 100%. However, you can work on it and train your body language to communicate better and more convincingly. For example, with these tips. Tip 1. More body tension. In general, pay attention to more body tension and an upright posture. This not only expresses more self-confidence, it also makes you more self-confident. Tip 2. Correct head posture. If you tilt your head back and look down at the person you are talking to, it can quickly come across as condescending. On the other hand, if you tilt your head slightly to the side, you radiate sympathy, interest, and trust. Tip 3. Improve sitting posture. Always sit completely on a chair. Anyone who sits on the edge of their seat leaves a less confident impression and appears to be on the run or anxious with thoughts of escape. But don't lean back too relaxed. This can be interpreted as disinterest or arrogance. Tip 4. Promote emotional intelligence. To decipher verbal and nonverbal messages, you need empathy. This form of emotional intelligence allows you to better understand the motives and intentions of the other person. If you can do this for yourself, it will work even better for others. Don't forget that. Many people believe that anyone who touches their nose while speaking is lying. It could be, but it doesn't have to be true. The person may also have an itchy nose. Means, a single facial expression or gesture doesn't reveal anything. Only when similar signals accumulate in body language does it become an indication. Therefore, never look at body language in isolation, not even in isolation from intercultural differences. Second one, smiling has several positive characteristics. Anyone who smiles at other people not only appears more likable and open-minded, he or she also becomes one. Smiling has been proven to lift your mood, even if it's fake last one. Pay particular attention to the pupils. They reveal a lot because their movements cannot be consciously controlled. Pupils dilate with joy, sympathy, or positive excitement. When they are afraid, angry, or disgusted, they narrow. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I see you in the next one. Have a great day.